Imagine winning control of a council, celebrating your victory as proof that your insurgent political movement is the future of British politics, only to have the government spend the following months systematically attacking you from every possible angle, accusing you of chaos and incompetence, whilst your own deputy leader is convinced they're orchestrating an actual takeover of your flagship local authority. Sounds like a political thriller, doesn't it? Well, welcome to the current battle over Kent County Council, when Nigel Farage Reform UK is convinced that Keir Starmer's Labour government is plotting something that looks suspiciously like a coup. And honestly, given the level of vitriol being thrown Kent's way from Westminster, you can almost see why they're paranoid. Quick favour, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button and smash that notification bell. Over 94% of viewers haven't yet. It's free, takes a second, and means the world to us. Cheers if you did. Now back to the show. So let's set the scene properly, shall we? Kent County Council isn't just any local authority. For Reform UK, it's their flagship, their pride and joy, their proof that they're not just a party that does well in opinion polls in European elections but can actually win proper, meaningful elections and govern. When Reform won control of Kent to the local elections earlier this year, it was a massive symbolic victory. Kent, one of the largest county councils in England, suddenly being run by Nigel Farage's outfit. That's not insignificant. That's a statement that says we're not going anywhere, we're here to stay, and we can actually run things. Except, according to Reform, Labour has spent the months since that election doing everything possible to undermine, attack, and delegitimize their administration. And we're not talking about gentle parliamentary questions or mild criticism. We're talking about sustained, high-level attacks from some of the most senior figures in government. David Lammy, who is not just any backbencher but the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister, has accused the Reform-led administration of presiding over chaos. Chaos. That's not pulling punches. That's going straight for the jugular. He claimed the council had become a symbol of poor governance, which is political speak for these people have absolutely no idea what they are doing. And Lammy wasn't alone. Keir Starmer himself, the Prime Minister, told MPs he sympathized with residents whose lives were being disrupted by staggering incompetence. Staggering incompetence. Those are the Prime Minister's words about a council that's been in Reform control for less than a year. Now, you might think that's just normal political point scoring. Opposition leaders attack governing parties attack opposition-controlled councils. It's all part of the game. Except here's the thing. Labour doesn't usually spend as much time and energy attacking individual local councils unless there's a bigger strategy at play. Richard Tice, Reform UK's deputy leader, certainly thinks there's more going on. He has claimed, quite explicitly, that Labour is running a coordinated campaign to undermine confidence in Kent County Council, sowing doubt about their competence, specifically so that the government can justify sending in commissioners to take over the authority. That's not a minor accusation. That's essentially saying the government is deliberately manufacturing a crisis to seize control of a democratically elected local authority run by their political opponents. It's the kind of accusation that, if true, would be an absolute scandal, and if false, makes Reform look paranoid and conspiratorial. Tice told The Telegraph, "We have strong reason to believe what they are trying to do is sow a loss of confidence in one of our councils, and they've targeted Kent." Strong reason to believe. Not speculation, not a hunch, but strong reason. He went further, saying Reform suspects the government is planning to send in commissioners either over the Christmas period or just into the new year. Over Christmas, when everyone's distracted by turkey and terrible television, when political journalists are on holiday, when nobody's paying proper attention. That would be, and let's be honest here, absolutely brilliant political timing if you wanted to do something controversial without too much scrutiny. Tice also said Reform would be ready to thwart what he called a coup in the courts. A coup. That's serious language. That's not just complaining about unfair treatment. That's alleging an actual attempt to illegally or undemocratically seize control, and is preparing legal action, which suggests this isn't just bluster. Reform is genuinely worried this is going to happen. The council leader, Lyndon Kemkren, has also spoken out, saying the council has been subject to a little prolonged, vicious and unsubstantiated campaign of attacks. Prolonged, vicious, and unsubstantiated. Those three words are doing a lot of work there. Prolonged suggests this has been going on for months, not just the odd critical comment. Vicious suggests the attacks have been particularly harsh and personal. Unsubstantiated suggests there's no actual evidence to back up the accusations of chaos and incompetence. If Kemkern is right, that would mean Labour is essentially making things up to damage Reform's reputation. But here's where it gets properly messy, because whilst Reform is crying conspiracy and claiming they're the victims of political persecution, there are some legitimate questions about how Kent County Council is actually being run. The council has attracted criticism over spending, specifically over plans to spend nearly £100,000 a year on political assistance. Now, if you campaigned on cutting waste and saving money, which Reform absolutely did, spending six figures on political assistance looks, at minimum, slightly hypocritical. The motion to fund these assistants, proposed by Council Leader Kemkern herself, passed 6-5 votes to 26. The idea is that these assistants would support party groups and liaise with the press, which, let's be honest, is political work, not council work. It's about managing Reform's image and communication strategy, not about delivering better services to Kent residents. Under the council rules, only Reform and the Liberal Democrats qualify for these roles, which makes it look even more like taxpayer money being used for party political purposes rather than actual governance. Opposition councillors have absolutely hammered this decision, calling it hypocritical and politically motivated. And they've got a point, haven't they? If you spend your campaign telling voters you're going to cut waste and save their money, then one of your first act in power is to spend nearly £100,000 on political assistance. That's going to look bad. It doesn't matter if other councils do similar things. It doesn't matter if the roles are technically within the rules. Politically, it's terrible optics. And then there's the budget situation, which is potentially even more damaging. A leaked forecast has revealed a £60 million budget gap for the financial year beginning in April. £60 million. Even with a full 5% council tax increase, which is a maximum allowed without triggering a referendum, there's still a massive shortfall. Now, Reform would rightly point out that they inherited a £20 million shortfall from a previous Conservative administration, so this isn't entirely their creation. But the gap has tripled. It's gone from 20 million to 60 million on their watch. That's not just inheriting problems, that's making them significantly worse. So here's a political conundrum. Is Labour orchestrating a coordinated campaign to undermine and ultimately seize control of Kent County Council because it's run by their insurgent political opponents? Or is Kent County Council genuinely struggling, making questionable spending decisions, facing a budget crisis, and Reform is using conspiracy theories to deflect from legitimate criticism? The honest answer is probably that both things can be true simultaneously. Let's start with the Labour side of things. It's perfectly plausible that Labour sees Kent as an opportunity. Reform is still a relatively young party. They're learning how to govern at local level, and they are vulnerable. If Labour can point to Kent and say, look, this is what happens when you elect Reform, chaos and incompetence, that's a powerful political message heading into the next general election. Every time Nigel Farage appears on television claiming Reform is the future, Labour can point at Kent and say, really? Because their flagship council is a mess. That's incredibly valuable political ammunition. The level and intensity of the attacks from senior Labour figures also suggests this isn't just random criticism. When the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister are both publicly slamming a single county council, that's coordinated. That's deliberate strategy. Someone in Labour headquarters has decided that attacking Kent County Council is worth the time and energy of the party's most senior figures. Why would they do that unless they saw political advantage in damaging Reform's reputation for competence? The timing that Tice mentioned, potentially sending in commissioners over Christmas or into the new year, also makes political sense. Governments often announce controversial decisions when they think media and public attention will be elsewhere. It's a classic political tactic. If you want to do something that will generate negative headlines, do it when there are fewer journalists working and when the public is distracted by other things. The fact that Tice has specifically identified this timing suggests either Reform has received intelligence about the government's plans, or they are anticipating what a competent political operation would do in Labour's position. But, and this is important, that doesn't mean Kent County Council has been running smoothly. The spending on political assistance is genuinely problematic, especially given Reform's campaign messaging. You cannot rail against waste and then immediately approve significant spending on roles that look suspiciously like party political appointments. That's hypocrisy, and voters absolutely hate hypocrisy. Politicians making promises they don't keep is one of the main reasons people are cynical about politics in the first place. The budget crisis is also real and serious. A £60 million shortfall is enormous for a county council. That means either significant cuts to services or substantial increases in council tax, or both. Neither option is politically attractive. If reform cuts services, they'll be accused of damaging essential support for vulnerable residents. If they increase council tax by the maximum amount, they'll be accused of burdening hard-working families. It's a lose-lose situation, and one that's going to make governing extremely difficult. There's also the small matter of what Labour's spokesperson said in response to Reform's allegations. They pointed out that Reform's own council leader, Kemkerin, told Kent's Reform councillors to suck it up if they didn't like her decisions. That's quite the quote. It suggests internal discord within the Reform group, councillors unhappy with how things are being run, and a leadership style that might be causing problems. Labour spokesperson also alleged that Reform has failed to find the savings they promised and is now considering increasing council tax, which, if true, is devastating politically. They then told Reform to grow up and start running Kent Council competently.